Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Niners Radio 49 segment presented by Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster.com is your ticket broker source for San Francisco 49ers football. Go to Ticketmaster.com/49ers. As we're going to have Niners getting ready to take on the Arizona Cardinals for week number 4 at Oracle Park. Kickoff time will be at 125 Pacific. You can catch the game on KMBR 680, or correction, KGO 810, and on 104.5, or I should say on KGO 810. They're not going to be on KMBR 680, 104.5 because of Giants baseball. It'll be on KGO 8 KGO 810 AM on your AM dial, and on from our good friends up north in the state capital, Sacramento, Sacktown Sports 1140 AM. And we're going to be, and this segment presented by, as the 49ers getting ready for the Arizona Cardinals, our guest on our Behind Our Enemy Line segment. We had him on the show a couple times last year. His name is Murphman, David Murphy for Big Sky Sports Talk. He covers the Arizona Cardinals. How you been, man? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, we have a little problem. Hold on. Hello? Uh-oh. We're having some technical... Let me see if I can... Hello?
There we go.
There we go. Yep. Sorry about that. So
No,
we're
you're good, brother.
all right. So I hit the stage button. Okay. So let's just do a retake from the top again. Segment presented by Ticketmaster.com. Ticketmaster, your official ticket broker for the source for the San Francisco 49ers. Go to Ticketmaster.com/49ers for all your tickets information. So we were going back a little bit horseback because I had to deal with another major breaking story from one of the Bay Area teams. Of course, involving the Giants. Gabe Kapler was fired a little more than I'm thinking a little more over an hour plus ago. So I'm already just completing putting that news story out there. So that was a big breaking news story. So we're going on a little bit of a horseback. But that was a big breaking story. I'm going to be, after we get done with this podcast, I'll be heading down to Oracle Park as we're doing this taping to get some fan reviews for that big news down for the Giants later on. So, but let's get to the topic: Niners and the Arizona Cardinals. Sunday afternoon, the Cardinals coming off a win against the Dallas Cowboys down in the desert, 28-18, or 28-16 was the final score from week number 3, and trying to dig up some of the stats from that game by from the Cardinals Cowboys game down in Arizona, as the Cowboys probably were overlooking this 49er game, and they end up getting beat. And try to get some stats from the game. What were your thoughts about that win for the Cardinals?
Well, it was a big win, a staple win. And of course, everybody's going to say, well, they didn't have their offensive linemen, their guards, and what? So no one's going to care about that. It doesn't matter.
Nope.
In the grand scheme of things, no one's if the Cardinals don't have their quarterback. They're having a guy that they picked up off the street before right after the third preseason game. So what is your response to that it has been on six or seven other different teams in Joshua Dobbs. So
Joshua Dobbs, yeah. I mean, tell me more about Joshua Dobbs.
Dude, he is one thing you realize when I watch press conferences with him. It is no question that he is the smartest person in every room that he enters. Every
Wow.
room, every room. It does. The dude is, you know, being contacted by NASA. I mean, he is ridiculously smart, and he has a pretty decent football IQ as well. I mean, like I said, you pick him up. Uh, he doesn't do anything in preseason, and uh, you make him your starter, and you see the progression week after week after week, and he goes in and leads his team to defeat the Cowboys, who are arguably at the time, you take your pick whether it's your 49ers or the Cowboys, who's the best team in the NFL. It's like 1 and 1A really, and takes them down. So what else can you say? And he earns his first career win. I mean, in every step of his way hasn't necessarily been ideal, but he's fought on, and he's played very, very well. A lot better than I expected. But you don't make that move if you are the Cardinals brass. If you don't believe in it. Now you can go on the flip side of things and say what I've already been saying is, oh well, this Cardinals team is tanking. Now, if I said that right in
No,
front
no,
of
no, 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 no.
right in front of everybody else, they say, "Oh no, we're not."
Right.
But they've made moves that to me have spelled that out. But they won't ever say that. But that is what they're doing. And I don't care who you are. It's not branded as a rebuild. No. It is a rebuild. That is exactly what it is. But it is also, in my mind, tanking, because everything you've done, well, that's what it says. You're not competing is what you're doing. The only reason why we're seeing the results that we're seeing has everything to do with Jonathan Gannon, who, if you ask the Philly market, they are there's shots over the bow from them because of how they say he left and all that. If you want to get into that, whatever, but I mean the locker room, the chemistry, the everything inside that building is a complete 180 from Cliff Kingsbury, and it's just the accountability. It's contagious, if you will. I mean, he's fining people if they're late to meetings, and under the Cliff regime, he was straight up, hey, we're going to have phone breaks. So it's completely different. It's a completely change of culture, but the roster that you put on paper does not say, hey, we are here to compete. It says tank to me. That I'll still go on that. And the over under, Vegas before the season had him at, I think, 4.5, and I'm running, and I don't bet, but if I'm running to the under, because I don't think they're going to win more than 4.5 games. I have them at 3, but one of the games that I had them, one of the 3 games I had them winning was not the Cowboys game. So, you kind of take the good with the bad on this.
On any given Sunday.
You're right. It is any given Sunday.
And the Cowboys just was not ready to play. And then they lost their
No,
safety, their DB. Who was it they lost for the rest of the year? He tore his
Trayvon
AC.
Diggs.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs. I think he's the brother of Stephon Diggs. The
Stephon Diggs.
Buffalo
Yep, they're brothers. Yep.
Their brother is done for the year with that torn with that ACL. So
Uh-huh.
and the Niners going to catch a break for that. They'll be playing the Dallas next week for Sunday Night Football. That's something we'll try to get to our Cowboy fans, people, for that. But the difference, what was the difference with the Cardinals now this time a year ago than and to the present now?
I mean, like I said, the biggest difference is the chemistry in the locker room and in that building because of uh, Jonathan Gannon and his staff. He has the youngest staff between him, his offensive coordinator and Drew Petzing, and defensive coordinator Nick Rollis. Nick Rollis is the youngest coordinator to ever coach in the NFL. And the defense has been really solid. It's the offense that's kind of slowly coming along. Josh Jobs, like I said, he's getting it done, and he specifically said, "Hey, I will get better." That's what he had said before this past week. He said after giving up the 20-point lead against the Giants, he said, "We will get better. I will get better." And he said a big jump is coming, and it came in the form of a win over Dallas. So there's a lot of upside to this Cardinals team, but they're still a terrible, terrible team. I really think that like I said, it's strictly culture that is and culture, discipline. Accountability, much needed accountability, is the biggest difference. Accountability that I've not seen since Cliff Kingsbury. That was zero when Cliff was there, and it's 100% different. Like I said, they're fining people for being late to meetings. JG.
Tom Coughlin 2.0.
Yeah, JG said, there was a media member that came in late, and he was totally being facetious, but he said, hey, Bob McManaman of the Arizona Republic came in a little late, and he said, Bob, that's a $15,000 fine. That at minimum. And that's what he said. Obviously, he's being facetious. He's not going to find a media member, but that's to say, hey,
that's your mortgage.
Yeah,
$15,000.
But it's the culture that he's bringing. Hey,
he's trying to say,
you want to eat. You want to eat before the meeting. Eat before the meeting. Don't come in here. There's been a couple guys coming in that used to. They're not anymore. They came in, with donut or whatever they have, whatever they're eating from earlier for breakfast. Come into the meeting room, and he said, no. It's meeting time. We eat. We eat when it's time to eat, and we meet when it's time to meet. This is your job.
Yep. This is like he must have been watching some old clips by Tom Coughlin with his time with the New York Giants and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
He's just an old school minded coach. He commands every room
Jason
that
Gannon,
he's
right?
in. Yep, this is Gannon. He commands every room, and his staff are no different really. Nick Rollis and Drew Petzing, they're fantastic, and we can't leave out Jeff Rogers, who's our special teams coordinator. He's been with the team for a while. After Bruce Arians left, they hired him, and he was with Cliff Kingsbury that whole time, and he's part of JG's system right now as well.
So he's
one
only
of the best to do it.
One of the few holders from Kingsbury's staff. I mean, looking at his bio on Wikipedia, he was born January 4th, 1983. So my little sister's about the same age as him because my little sister was born in '83. And he was an assistant with the Falcons, Titans, Vikings, Colts, and the Eagles. And then he's a Cleveland native. And he was student assistant, graduate assistant at Louisville, defensive quality control coach, defensive for both the Falcons, Titans, and then the assistant defensive backs coach with Minnesota, and with the Colts, and defensive coordinator in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And now he was a college scout for the Rams and pro scout with the Rams as well. So
he's done a little bit of everything, and And like I said, there's connections everywhere he's been with just about everybody on his staff as well. So it's it's a breath of fresh air for sure for us over here, and he like I said. He commands the room, even the media room. Like he said, hey, that's $15,000. Obviously, again, he's joking, but he commands the room, and that's what you want if you're going to have a drastic head coaching hire. Someone that's never been a head coach but has been in the NFL for a little bit, had some great success as a defensive coordinator. You want someone that's not going to put up with bullcrap.
Yeah,
And
not okay. Not
yeah,
okay.
yep,
And then also looking at on the flip side, I mean, I'm going to look at some of the stats from last week's game against Dallas. What they did. Looking at Joshua Dobbs' numbers, he was 17 out of 21,
yeah,
189 yards passing through a touchdown pass. It was the James Croner show. He ended
yeah,
up 14 carries, 98 yards, averaging
mm-hmm.
7 yards a pop. He had a touchdown. The longest was
Mm-hmm.
26. And then also looking at the receiving numbers for Croner, he caught 2 more balls for 18 yards. So
Mm-hmm.
he ended up trying to look at the numbers that he had. Trying to pull this up. He ended up getting 98 yards, and then plus he had another 116 yards, all-purpose yards, and then Croner ended up averaging 7.2 yards per touch for that entire
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah, it was good. And he killed it for the game, and a lot of fantasy owners very happy as well. So.
Yep, and also, I'm just getting not to be getting off topic.
No, you're good.
Kai Correa, by the way, will be the interim manager for the final 3 games of the season. So that's something I'm going to be putting on when I get done with this. I'm going to be posting that on my update for Satellite Digital on our affiliate. So not to it's a kind of a little bit of a distraction when
you're fine.
Yeah,
you're fine.
So we're continuing on our Behind the Enemy segment with Professor B here with David Murphy from Big Sky Sports Talk. He does Arizona Cardinals football and Arizona State Sun Devils, right?
Yeah. I do it all here in Arizona. Really, I don't do a whole lot for the Wildcats. They're our down south brother, but just pretty much everything in the valley. I try to cover as much as I can.
Yeah. So you're probably will you ever try to do some Arizona State baseball? I got a chance to check out Phoenix Municipal Stadium back last March. Was down there for spring training. Very nice facilities there where the A's used to be their home for so many years.
Yeah, I haven't done it as much. It's hard to get a whole lot of coverage on them because they don't get a whole lot. I mean, it's not as big as basketball and football. Still very, very important. I try to do it, but there's so much because if you probably know as much as I do, you put so much into the podcasting and broadcasting business. You're watching every game that you can. You're taking all the notes you can, watching all the press conferences you can, and with ASU football, basketball, the Coyotes, the Cardinals, the Suns, that's a lot to undertake. It's not just a couple of things here and there. To add baseball to it is not impossible. It might be something that I'll do next season. Obviously, it's well too late to do it now. But I like where we are going in that direction. I think that what they're doing for the baseball squad is going up.
Oh
And
yeah, Willie
I think
Bloomquist,
everything else will follow.
the former Seattle Mariners infielder, played second base, and funny.
Yeah.
I think I told you I used to cover the University of San Francisco Giants baseball,
Hmm.
and Luke Keeschel, who made all of, got drafted by the Twins, played there. He was the team MVP, transferred through the transfer portal, plus two more players, Mario Demira and Harrison uh, is going down there to play for this coming season. So when I go down to spring training later in the year, I'm gonna check out another round of Arizona State baseball, back for the future. But let's get back to for this matchup, Niners and the Cardinals. I mean, the flip side of this is the Niners have lost 6 of their last 8 games at home versus the Cardinals, but this is a total different team like it was when Kyler Murray was at quarterback. And what's the status on Kyler Murray?
Well, there really isn't one. I mean, he's still progressing. He's posted a video of him working out the knee, working out at the facility. He's been at the facility a lot more than he ever has, and there's a total difference of demeanor that I've ever seen with Kyler right now. But the video that he posted was on TikTok, and like I said, he was working out, and then he was shouting out to everybody that believes in him, and everybody's following his journey, and mentioned the journey has been the toughest that he's ever faced coming off of this torn ACL. And then he ended it, with saying, "Hey, I won't, thank you for not letting me down, and I won't let us down." And then he said, "Soon." He just ended it with the words "soon," basically saying, "Hey, I will be back soon." Now, I don't know what that looks like. He can't be removed off of PUP until this upcoming Monday. I'm not reporting, but I have a strong suspicion that they will remove him off of PUP going into week 5. However, I do not believe that he will be
ready to go
active for the game. Though he knows the playbook, he hasn't been able to practice the playbook. And so that's a big difference. Yes, he's been on the sidelines. Yes, he's had his input. Yes, he's been in the meeting rooms. But you have to practice. The only way to get better at football is to play football. The great philosopher Bill Belichick says that all the time. You can't get good at football without practicing football. And
right.
So that's where we are right now. My best guess, if I had to speculate, that he will be active between weeks 6 and 8. I don't expect him to be. I expect him to be off PUP, possibly this upcoming week again, like I said, Monday. But as far as playing, probably somewhere between 6 and 8. He wants to be back as soon as possible. Monty Austinfort, the GM of the Cardinals, said, "I will not hesitate to activate Kyler when he is mentally and physically able to be activated." So they have the belief in him that he will be ready whenever that is. We don't know. We still don't know. They're not letting that out. If they're not going to tell us who the starting quarterback is before the Washington game, even though that was somewhat of a joke in itself, okay, well, you either have your 4th-round draft pick in Clayton Tune, or you have Josh Dobbs. What is the competitive advantage? Even though they say that it is a competitive advantage, what do they have to do? They being the Commanders have to do to prepare for either of those two quarterbacks. Not a lot. One's a rookie, and again, the other had only 2 starts. You watch all that film, boom, that's done. So there wasn't really competitive advantage, even though they said it was. So if they weren't going to let that out, they're not going to let us know when Kyler is going to be available. But I have my suspicion that he will be off PUP Monday. We'll have that week of practice, but it will be probably another week 5 with Josh Dobbs, maybe week 6 with Kyler.
Yeah, and then the Niners, which by the way, the Niners, they will not. The next time we will meet, by the way, we won't have another session of this until week number 15. That will be
Mm-hmm.
the week leading up towards December 17th,
Yep.
mid December,
Yep.
when they play the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll know by then where the Cardinals are going to be, and the
Sure.
Niners will be, because before they play the Cardinals, they'll be in that stretch from week 12 on the Thanksgiving night till week 15. They'll be playing three of the next four games will be within the division.
Mm-hmm.
And the sandwich between the two Seahawks games, they'll be in Philadelphia for that showdown that could
Yep.
have a lot of major implications
Sure.
for the top spot in the NFC, and that's not to look far ahead. So divisional games at this stage is important. The Niners coming off their
Yep.
win over the New York Giants last week, and these division games is going to count just like conference record, because you want to try to get that. Uh, we just lost. We that was the looking at their report that Debo Samuel, who injured his ribs and he had a sore knee, is now listed as questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And then the the wide receiver Juan Juan Jennings is going to be with a shin, has been listed as doubtful. And then Drake Greenwald and Demetrius Flanagan Foles are both are listed as questionable as well. So this is probably a game I expect that the Niners should win. And this is you want to try to maintain your top spot in the division, and try to increase its lead. And for the rest of the Cardinals, on the defense, how about their defense?
The Cardinals' defense is been the strongest point. They uh, they've kind of been carrying the team until last week. Uh, the biggest issue though is defensive line is pretty banged up. They haven't been able to rotate like they wanted to. Recently made an addition, and I can't remember the name right now, but they're hurting there. They're hurting at the front seven is hurting, but they're still getting the job done. So
The secondary, right?
No, the defensive line. Defensive line is pretty hurt. Well, and I mean the secondary is too with Buda Baker, but the defensive line is
Isaiah
much
Simmons
more.
got dealt. And then Simmons got dealt to the Giants before the season started.
Yeah. So it's I mean when you look at the game status up to this point, and you just talking about defense. Well, Josh Woods is out. He's linebacker. And Jonathan Ledbetter is also out, defensive end. So those two, they're not big guys on defense, but still, since you asked about the defense, those two are already out. Questionable, you have Chris Barnes, also a linebacker. He's questionable, so we'll see about him. As far as anybody else, James Conner still dealing with a back injury, but he played last week. He's unspecified. Kelvin Beachum has a hand. He's offensive line, unspecified. David Collins got poked in the eye last week. He should be fine.
Ouch.
He should.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
He should be available. It didn't look good initially, but looks good right now. Marquise Hollywood Brown has a thumb injury, just popped up, during practice. He's questionable. backup running back Keontae Ingram has a neck injury. He's questionable. Paris Johnson Jr. has an ankle. He was limited today. He's questionable. I think he'll probably go because I think it's an ankle that he had earlier in the week. But yeah, defensive on the defensive side of things, it's much more of a different story. And then, like I said, you have Buda Baker that is on IR and he can't be off of IR for the next I want to say 2 weeks because he's already been on actually 3 weeks. He got to put on IR before going into this last game. No, he wasn't available for. Was he available for Giants? I can't remember. If he was on IR for the Giants, then he has 2 more weeks. If he wasn't, then he has 3 more weeks. So that's a big blow too. But like I said, the front seven is probably the most depleted, and that's a big thing that Nick Rallis likes to do, and Jonathan Gannon that has a lot of say on the defensive side of the ball. They like to rotate those front 7 guys to kind of keep them fresh. A lot of teams do that anyway, but when you're down a bunch of guys, it's really, really hard to do. But as I said, they have been the biggest reason for why the Cardinals have even been close. You know, if they've been able to finish these games, they could easily be undefeated right now too. They have had the lead in all 3 games. The only issue is they didn't finish that Giants game.
That's correct.
They lost that lead.
They didn't finish
I
think their head coach, they say they should have been in 3-0, and that'd be a surprise.
Yeah.
And but you know, and what was the? I mean, and also I'm trying to think. What was the? And then like now let's go on the flip of the other side, the 49ers side. You know, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch both received multi-year contract extensions last week. I broke that story on my podcast immediately when that came to tuition. You know, you look where the Niners were 6 years ago, and they have turned really turned the corner. They've been legitimate contenders and you know they've got long term. So both him and Lynch are not going anywhere, and they have full control. They're running the show. They are just you know, the Niners have just been 3 division titles or 3 trips to the NFC Championship in 4 years, and a trip to the Super Bowl, and you know. And what are your thoughts on what the Niners have done the last several years?
I mean, they never cease to amaze me. Anytime you feel like there's questions at this position, questions at quarterback, questions, you know, injuries here, injuries there, and you want to kick dirt on them, you can't. You know, so that's just the situation with the 49ers, and they're a tough opponent. Very smart move in locking up those guys for a couple more years, and that, you know, I don't blame you if you're the 49ers in charge of extending Lynch and whatnot. That's a smart move because he's done great in the draft. He's done great in free agency. He's done great in everything that he's done since he's been there. And I mean, they are nails on everything they do. And so, like I said, the only reason why you think you want to kick dirt on them is questions as far as the roster goes because of injury. But they acquire talent one way or another. You go to try to kick dirt on them, and you can't. And so you end up with egg on your face. So it's you know, if you're in the Bay Area, you know. So yep. They are a very proud franchise right now, and my pick to win the NFC right now, and it's way too early pick, but they are my pick right now.
Now let's flip it to the other conference, the AFC. Who do you as we're in the first quarter of this season, not even close towards the halfway mark, we could have
Yeah.
that dialogue on a private conversation in about 8 weeks, probably in another 3 to 4 weeks when we get at that halfway point. I could get you on another podcast. We could do the full
Yeah.
slate of the NFL at the midway point. I have a lot of followers, yourself, and former voice of the San Diego Chargers and the Seattle Seahawks. I listened to his podcast. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton used to do a drive time radio for Extra 690 AM
Hmm.
or 8 uh, for the defunct sports talk station down in Southern California. We'll give you guys as what you're at the halfway point. How you like the AFC so far in this first quarter?
Um, they definitely seem to be a little bit more questions over there. Like the NFC has defined two or three leaders in Dallas and San Francisco, but in the AFC, in my opinion, you want to say the Chiefs, but there's still there's so many question marks over there. You want to say the Bengals, and they're slowly coming around. It's really hard to tell. And then it doesn't matter whether you're in college or the NFL, but anytime someone puts 70 on you, you're like, oh, that catches your eye. So you want to mention Miami as well in that conversation. It's really hard. And then you have Aaron Rodgers that goes down early. That was very promising. So there's so many more question marks the way I see it on that side. So I don't have a clear one or two teams that you can really say, hey, these two teams are looking really good, like you can with the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts of the Dolphins when they dropped the 70 against the Broncos? And I know you're from was it Wyoming, right?
Well, I mean, Montana right now. That's
Montana,
where that's
right?
where I'm
Montana,
doing it.
right?
But so yeah, but no, yeah, it's like I said. When you ask me about the AFC, is it doesn't matter what level of football, whether it's college or the NFL. It should catch your attention when someone's hanging 70 on you. That is a big deal. I really like what they have going on over there. That they caught my eye like they should have everybody, and more than just a joking way that some people would do. But I've always believed in Tua Tagovailoa because he's I also have a lot of track record in being in the South. I lived in the South for a long time, specifically Alabama. So I'm I'm a big Alabama fan. So I always was a big believer in Tua, and you feel like that's kind of coming along. And if it can continue, then maybe they're my pick out of the AFC. But it's hard to
Well,
tell right now. As I
if
said, there's so many.
well, they got the
Condos.
Buffalo Bills this weekend.
Yeah,
That could be me
big
me
matchup.
being well, yeah, a divisional matchup because the Dolphins, if they could get a win against the Buffalo Bills, they could put some early separation. They could be two. It's a 2 game swing if they go up 2 games or plus one 2 game swing. They could be have a commanding 2 game lead over Buffalo, and there is a history between those two teams, the Dolphins and Buffalo's. Me growing up in the part of the 80s and 90s generation, and once upon a time, the Dolphins went and roughshod and ran the table over the Bills in the 70s, beating them 20 straight times in the decade of the 70s when Don Shula, the late Don Shula, had those great Dolphin teams when they made it to 3 straight Super Bowls, winning 2 of the 3. 72, of course, was the perfect season, 17-0, and then won it again in 73. And then, and it was at one point the Dolphins had won 31 out of 34 between 1970 from 70 through 86, and then the Dolphins were 18 and the Bills I think were 18 and 1 in 20 games in the old Orange Bowl between 1967 through 1986, and then the Bills changed the corner, winning 14. I believe they ended up winning 17 out of 21 between 87 through 95, which including they beat them in the playoffs. They ended up beating them in the playoffs three times. In two of those three times, they beat the Dolphins. They ended up going to the Super Bowl, and they beat them in the AFC Championship in 1992, which is the last time the Dolphins were in the AFC Championship. And then I think it's a good true rivalry, but the Dolphins, their Achilles heel is playing in cold weather in the month of December, and if they were to get this win against Buffalo, that's going to really boost some confidence down there in South Florida. And Tui is just getting that ball quick release. And you had former Niners Raheem Mostert. They have some former Niner players playing for the Dolphins down there. Mike McDaniel's a brilliant young coach, doing a great job there down in South Florida.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They got it going on. Like I said, depending on how things get going, then they are my clear number one out of the AFC.
And then you look at for the Niners, after this week, they get the Dallas Cowboys, a rivalry renewed. Rematch of the playoffs last year. That was a hard-hitting defensive struggle. Then the Niners will end up 2 weeks after that. They go travel to play the Cleveland Browns, which they have a good defense, and unfortunately they lost Nick Chubb for the rest of the season with his knee injury. Then they play
probably the rest of the career.
Oh, so his is extremely serious. So,
but it's on the same knee that it was when he was in Georgia. So I won't always count a guy out, but I'm counting him out. I mean, just to be honest with you, like you don't want to do that, but that is really tough. In college it was worse than it was now. They said there was some positives that come out of it. They thought it was worse this last time, but in college it was much worse than that. But the fact that it was on the same knee, that is very, very difficult to come back from.
Delicate, and you just, when you're dealing with knee injuries like that, that's, I'll put it into a personal perspective. I was used to be team reporter, play-by-play for USF Dons for nearly a quarter century. Coach Neil Giarratano, who has daughter play high school basketball, tore her ACL playing once, then re-injured it again a year later, the same one, and it was just I'm putting it into my own personal perspective that's not nothing. It's not. It was. I was devastated for that child. So years more than way back, and it was just had to go through 2 knee surgeries. I'll never forget that. Where you never know, and it's a lesson to be learned. You never know when you're going to be playing your last play. The finality.
Sure, and the only player that I know in my memory, and that there might be someone I'm missing, to ever come back from 2 torn ACLs on the same knee was Carson Palmer.
Carson Palmer.
Yeah, and he had a heck of a career with the Cardinals and Cincinnati. Not so much there in Oakland, but he came back from it, and so it can be done. It's hard for a running back to do it, though. I feel like because they rely so much more on the knee. Yeah.
Yeah, the punishment hits when they go low, when they try to go low on his knees. That's where that's a recipe for disaster or any receiver. I think, but those pounding, punishing knees. The great thing by Roger Craig when he was one of my favorite backs. He was the first to get 1,000 yards reception and receiving, which Christian McCaffrey got a good chance to get 2,000 all-purpose yards. Get 2,000 all-purpose yards again, because he's that versatile back. What are your thoughts of Christian McCaffrey?
Well, he's clearly, I wouldn't say, you want to say revived his career there in San Fran, but it wasn't dead in Carolina. It's so much more vibrant right now. He really fits, and Kyle does a great job in getting everybody in space. You have to
Orbit.
You have to worry about everybody. You have to worry about Debo. You have to worry about CMC. You have to worry about Brandon Ayuk. You have to worry about everybody on that team, because he does a great job at getting the playmakers the ball in space and moving them around. Like they're never in one spot.
Right. And then, orbit in motion. I think, and I'm going to throw this little tab of Arizona State baseball. I was telling you, Luke Keeschel used to play at University of San Francisco, and I covered him, and was sadly just only just for that brief time, but really because 21 was because of the COVID year restrictions, and we couldn't have really no full access in person. And then unfortunately, there was some issues that happened over a year ago, and it was a big brouhaha with Coach Giarratano got dismissed, and I'm not going to get into it fully, but he will one day get cleared for any wrongdoing. But for Luke Keeschel, he recruited to play second base. Christian McCaffrey was, to the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey was dynamite. Luke Keeschel with USF Dons baseball and Arizona State baseball, Luke Keeschel was to our offense what Christian McCaffrey was to the 49ers. Keeschel was the Christian McCaffrey of Arizona State's offense in baseball. Mm-hmm. Christian McCaffrey was the TNT dynamite. Luke Keeschel was the mini hand grenade. Very offensive. That's where he reminds me of Christian McCaffrey.
Sure.
The point is similar parallels.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you on that. Absolutely.
And if you do, I'll give you a little homework assignment. You can find out more about Luke Keeschel. His stats and his number. He's a good kid, great family, parents, very nice. But Keeschel, or I should say, McCaffrey could be a candidate for the league's MVP. Definitely leader of the clubhouse.
Absolutely.
For offensive player of the year.
Oh yeah, definitely. Either one or both, maybe.
And he ties the Niners' all-time record for touchdowns in a single consecutive touchdowns. Jerry Rice has the old mark. He had 12 consecutive games in 1987. That same year, he had still have the franchise all-time record for most touchdowns in a single season. He's had that back in 1986. He was the NFL Associated Press Offensive Player of the Year. He should have been the league MVP in '87. He finished behind John Elway, who was the league MVP that year Elway got the Broncos back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what's going to be the final outcome for Sunday's game? I think the Niners, this is a divisional game. I know Kyle Shanahan, those guys are not going to – they watched the game over the weekend, listened to some of the talk shows.
Absolutely.
And I say the Niners are going to come out. I say it's going to be 31 to 14, 31-10. And
that big of a beatdown, huh?
Yeah, I mean, but the Cardinals, the way they played, this is there's no off days, so the Niners are getting some rest. Hopefully, Debo be ready to go. Hey, by the way, I like those new Cardinal uniforms. By the way.
Oh yeah, they're sweet. This week they will be wearing the away white. Yep. and that actually came out just before we started recording, about 30 minutes or so. So they will be in that all white, and they're sleek. That all white, it's sharp, very very sharp.
Well,
And I
after the
like what they done.
well, after the games, when they get back, the all the support staff, clubhouse people are gonna the locker room, all the equipment managers, them they gotta get some serious oxy to clean them